Uh, Good afternoon, good evening, or maybe good morning, everybody. Welcome to the final seminar of Migration Research Group at the University of Sheffield. And I'm Aneta Piekut, co-director of this group, and together with my colleagues Majela Kielki and Rebecca Murray, would like to welcome you to this additional event we decided to organize before Christmas, as the situation is very worrying at the border between Poland and Belarus for a few months now. So today we'll be talking about the humanitarian crisis on the Polish-Belarusian border, and we'll hear an update from one of the researchers and activists that's been involved in this situation at the border for some time now. So we'll hear from a person who's been there, and the content of the seminar might be a little bit, well, very distressing. So this is just to give you a warning that some of the quotes or photos might be upsetting. Since August 2021, so this summer, the crisis has been developing at the Polish-Belarusian border, and thousands of migrants and asylum seekers have been trapped in the forest because Polish border guards haven't been accepting their asylum claims and push them back to the other sides of the border with Belarus. And there has been also the role of the Lukashenko regime, who kept them in their facilities near the border. Polish authorities do not let the media nor humanitarian aid to the zone, and since the 6th December already, we know about 8 people who have died on the Polish side of the border because of the hypothermia, water poisoning, or starvation. So today we'll hear from Dr. Marta Jadwiga Pietrusińska, who works as assistant professor of the University of Warsaw, about the update, a little bit about the context, and hopefully we'll be having also plenty of time after her presentation for questions. And a little bit more about Dr. Pietrusińska. She's an anti-discriminatory educator and activist who's been working with migrants, especially asylum seekers and refugees, for the last almost 15 years now. In her research, she combines civic migration studies, critical theory, gender and post-colonial perspectives to understand this situation of asylum seekers and refugees in Poland. She's interested in minority-majority groups' relations at the both individual and institutional level. So this is introduction from me, and just to remind everybody that we also are recording the seminar. If you would like to ask a question, you can use the chat function throughout the session, or use the raise a hand option, which is also on the bottom here, and use your microphone to ask a question, but I will remind you after the talk. So now, after this introduction, I would like to welcome again Marta today. And Marta, let's just stop this slide and move to your screen. The microphone is yours.
Thank you for introduction.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for agreeing to tell us about this difficult and probably emotional topic for you as well. So I'll just give you now space to speak.
Okay. So again, thank you for having me here. I'm just checking, can you see the slides, if everything is okay?
Yes.
Okay, so today I will be talking about the humanitarian crisis that happened in Polish-Belarusian border. As Dr. Aneta Piekut said, I'm a migration study researcher. I'm working at university, but also for last almost 15 years, I have been working with migrants and refugees, sometimes as an activist, sometimes in NGOs. And until July this year, me and my colleagues who works with migrants, we were dealing with things like how to integrate people, how to give migrants civic rights, and so on and so on. And now we're dealing with the situation where We have to learn how to help people in hypothermia, how to use, this blanket to cover them right way. So situation shifted extremely, and today I will give you some information about the crisis. So I will share a little bit geopolitical and local context of the crisis. I will tell you how it happened and how it appeared first in the Polish discourse, public discourse. Then I will tell you about Polish authorities' approach to the crisis and policies. And then there will be some disturbing things about human ping pong and how people are pushed back and what happens to them. But also I will show you how activists and NGOs and locals provide non-formal humanitarian aid. And in the very end, I will try to sum it up and try to prove that this crisis is unique, comparing to the ones we had in Balkans or in Greece or in Italy. So I want you to imagine the primeval forest, the forest with swamps, with small rivers, with people who are not accessing it because it's national park, so a lot of wild animals there. And this forest is on the Polish and Belarusian border. You can see it on this map. So it's in the east of Poland. The border has around 400 kilometers. Most of the border is covered by forest, but of course there are some villages, small towns, but in general there is a deep, deep forest. And why it is so important? Because the forest plays an important role in this whole crisis. I will be talking about it afterwards. But to give you the context, I have to share with you the Polish discourse about migration that we have. And since before 2015, there was almost nothing about migrants in public discourse. They were not appearing. But then, because there was elections in 2015, the Law and Order Party used the migrants or anti-migrants rhetorics to win the election. So in the public discourse appear this kind of covers, as you can see. So Islamic rape on Europe, or refugees brought deadly disease and parasites. The discourse was extremely anti-migration. Then Law and Order Party found another minority to fight with them, like LGBTQ people. So for some time, the migrants disappeared from the discourse, and then again they appeared, but a little bit differently, because in 2020, Lukashenko, the president or ex-president of Belarus, claimed that he won elections, but he didn't. Poland and other EU countries didn't acknowledge his presidency. And because of it, Poland accepted around 15,000 migrants from Belarus. Most of them came as economic migrants because this way was easier than go through the procedure. So I checked, around 1,000 people got some kind of international protection, like refugee status. The rest came as an economic migrants. And then in August 2021, Poland also get involved into evacuation of Afghan people from Kabul. So around 1,000 Afghans were evacuated from them. So we could see the shift in public discourse from saying refugees are threat, refugees are will destroy Poland, to the discourse, our refugees, the ones we acknowledge are good, we will help them. So Belarusians, so Afghans, but only those who which we brought in our planes. But the people who are crossing the border, the green one, so illegally, they are not asylum seekers, they're illegal migrants, they're bad. As you can see, the last cover says like on the war. So we're on the war with them. They're a threat to our sovereignty. So we can see the shift. And what is also important that since 2015, Polish policy in the area of asylum seekers was extremely strict. So it was almost impossible to get through the border crossing and claim for asylum. I know a family from Tajikistan. They tried to claim for asylum in the border crossing for 8 times. No, sorry, for 18 times. And on the 18th time, they managed to cross, and now they have the refugee status. So Poland authorities was extremely strict, and even at that time, they were not accepting refugees. They were just accepting some. And on the other hand, we have Lukashenko, who lost the elections in 2020. EU didn't acknowledge it, and they put sanctions on Belarusian regime. So Lukashenko decided to make a revenge. So he made visas to Belarus for people from Middle Eastern countries, extremely easy to get. And then the flights from places like Istanbul, Beirut, Baghdad, Dubai appear, and there were trips. There were announcement commercials of trips. You can fly to Belarus, and of course, the trip was the easy way to get to EU. So you just take a plane. Then from Minsk, you take taxi to the border. Then you have to walk for around 3 kilometers, and you're in EU. Some people even thought that when they will cross the border with Belarus and another country, they will be in Germany. And it occurs that there is 700 kilometers to Germany. And I will dare to claim that contrary to other migration crises, this one is centrally coordinated, and it's human trafficking. Because in other big migration flows, of course, for instance, Turkey was inspiring the flow, or Libya was inspiring the flow by letting migrants to cross the border, telling the border guards to do nothing and let them to cross the border. But here we have centrally coordinated human trafficking, because Belarusian forces like military service, secret service are taking actively part in it. And here you can see on the map Grupa Granica, which is a consortium of NGOs who have been working in the migration area in Poland for many years. They did their report. They managed to identify the open air facilities where on the Belarusian side, where people were just kept in the forest. They couldn't turn back to Minsk. They couldn't turn back to their country. And they were forced to cross the border many times. Poles were pushing them back, and it was going like this. But so that's why I'm claiming that it's centrally coordinated human trafficking. Now the situation changed a little bit. We'll be talking about this. Some people were able to turn back home, but in the very beginning they were just kidnapped and just kept there. Sometimes they were provide some food or water, but in general we have many reports that on Belarusian side there are many people who died. And how it appeared in Poland. So in the middle of August, I was on my holidays, and the information that in Usnasz Górny, so it's a tiny village just close to the Belarusian border, there are 32 Afghan people. You can see them on the up left photo. So they are kept between on the strip of the land between Polish soldiers and Polish border guards and Belarusian soldiers or some uniformed service, and they cannot cross. They were claiming asylum. They are recording that they standing in front of the Polish border guards and claiming asylum. Activists came, they wanted to help them. So in the very beginning, they were able to give them some few tents, some water, power banks, and some documents to sign it that the lawyers could represent them. But then activists were pushed from them. As you can see, there was like police and soldiers with a gun standing in the line. They put the lorries to cover those asylum seekers. So activists were talking to the migrants, to asylum seekers, through the speaker, as you can see, and they were there for 3 weeks on the field. I was also there. I saw the situation. There were just people 300 meters from me, and I couldn't do anything. The European Court of Human Rights ordered Poland to provide shelter, medical aid, food, and water to those people. So Polish authorities sent the lorry with this aid to the border crossroad. Of course, Belarusians didn't let them. So it was like, yeah, they just could give it through the port guards, but they claim that they cannot do it because then they will be smuggling some things. And in the middle of October, those people were still there. So Belarusians, from time to time, they were giving them some food and so on, but they were not able to move anywhere. So when the situation started, I went there to educate people. So I work with Grupa Granica, and I was going from home to home, knocking to doors and talking with people that if they will meet migrants, please give them water. It's not illegal. You can you can give them food. We were giving leaflets with our phone numbers. So we were telling you can call us. We have translator. Don't be afraid. So we did this education thing. We knew that in forest there are some people who get lost. So slowly, some people from like activists and NGO workers start to appear in the forest and look for the people. But quite fast. So I was there on 26, 27 August, and then on 2nd of December, Polish authorities claim state of emergency. As you can see, this red spots are those which are in the state of emergency zone. Then the state of emergency was prolonged until 2nd of December. According to Polish constitution, you cannot prolong it again. So now we have kind of illegal state of emergency. So the ruling party make a new law that it's almost same as the state of emergency, but it's not state of emergency. But why the state of emergency is so important is in this crisis? Because the access to this zone is restricted. So only people who live there or work in the zone are allowed. No media, no NGOs, no humanitarian aid. So you cannot enter this zone. Only local people can like provide humanitarian aid there. And then also Polish authorities put, as you can see, the razor blade fence, and also they decided to build a wall. Probably they will spend around 400 million euro on it to just put a wall on the border with Belarus. Now we have the razor blade wall, and people are pushed through this razor blade fence. And then the pushbacks. So from the very beginning, Polish border guards, together with police and together with soldiers, were pushing back people to Belarus. In the beginning, it was totally illegal. Then in the middle of, I think, October, they created the new law that legalized the pushbacks. But of course, this law is against Geneva Convention, Polish Constitution, any Human Rights Convention, against Children's Rights Convention. So we have law which shouldn't exist, but it does. So because of it, in this area with the red color, there is a dead zone. Also, in the sense that people are dying there. We know now about 10 deaths, but people who are crossing the border, the asylum seeker and migrants, claim that on the Belarusian side there is many people who died, and also in the forests are many bodies of people who died. As I said, it's primeval forest, there are swamps, rivers, the ground is rough, people are dying of hypothermia, of starvation, of water poisoning. And Polish border guards create a new category of to report the situation. So they claim that there are failed attempts to cross the border. So they protected the border against those who wanted to cross it. So until December, there was, according to Polish authorities, 35,000 failed attempts. Only 1,771 people were detained. And until December, around 3,600 asylum applications were accepted. And as you can see here, I will send you the report so you can see it, like you can watch it and read it through. But there are attempts to cross illegally the border and prevented attempts to cross the border. As you can see, there's only some detention, some arrest. Normally, all those people who cross the border illegally should be detained, and then if they claim for asylum, they should be in the procedure. Those who are not, they should be sent back to their home countries, not pushed back to Belarusian side. And we know about situations when people were pushed back for 20, 30 times. And in the very beginning of the crisis, the Grupa Granica, the activists, managed to help Iraqi men who were pushed back to the deep forest. So border guards just put them into their truck and then just took them to this primeval forest, to the zone which is restricted for people to access. So it's like wild, and they just left them in the middle of the night. So people are extremely afraid to be pushed back. Here is the quote from the nurse that works in the hospital. And she said that she had a patient, and when he heard that he will have to leave the hospital, so the border guards will take him, he wanted to hang himself. He wanted to commit suicide. So she's saying, first it was a panic attack. It was at that point that the clinical director told this migrant that he was leaving. I was during the night shift, and this patient collapsed on the bathroom floor. And the nurse said, I haven't seen such panic attack before. And then there was a second attack, and then he wanted to tighten the belt from the trousers on his neck. And the nurse says that from the very beginning, I reported that he was in a very bad mental state. He said that there were brothers who died in his hands on Belarusian side, and he was terribly afraid to be pushed back. So people, I'm not walking in the forest. I'm not providing the aid, but I'm collecting testimonies of people who are doing this. And from those testimonies, I know that those migrants who are in forest, they are terribly, terribly afraid. They're kissing hands of aid workers or activists, begging them on their knees not to call the board guards or not to, or to, you know, take them home. So migrants who got trapped there, they are traumatized, many of them. And here you have photos of taken by activists and journalists during providing help. And we have quotations from 2 doctors from 2 different hospitals. And they're describing the state of the patient. So they're saying that in general, people are very tired, hungry, and thirsty. But while at the very beginning it was main problem, now they come to us in much more severe condition. We have dehydration, hypothermia, sometimes very critical. The deep trauma temperature drops to 28 degrees, and of course it should be 33.6. A condition below this value may be fatal. Hence, we have now patients in intensive care. And then the other one says that they're life-threatening situation, but also there are people with injuries, some broken bones, some injuries of limbs, and also, as you can see on the photo, one of the main problem is that people have they're walking in the wet shoes for many, many days, so their foot are wet and the skin is peeling off and it's extremely painful. Some reporting that they have been beaten by the dogs on Belarusian side, because Belarusians use the dogs to make people to cross the border, and they also beat them up. So the migrants also were beaten up on the Belarusian side. But on the Polish side, Polish Informed Service, for instance, destroyed their phones, so they cannot communicate with families, with activists. So it looks like this. But then, as I said, we have non-formal humanitarian aid, because until now, no humanitarian aid like Red Cross is not allowed to this zone. But fortunately, there are people who want to provide help, and we have Grupa Granica that I mentioned, and I will send you their report in English, so you can go through it, how they work, go into details. So it's a consortium of NGOs who work with migrants before. We have also Fundacja Ocalenie. This is another important NGO that takes care of migrants. Then appears Medycy na Granicy. It's like doctors on the border, on the frontiers. Again, their ambulance was not allowed to the state of emergency zone. Now they're exchanged by Polskie Centrum Pomocy Międzynarodowej. Again, they're doctors and nurses and some other medical professionals. We have Polish Red Cross, and there is a lot of locals who start to help. So, for instance, we have Białowieska Akcja Humanitarna. They created their own humanitarian aid. Those are locals who are living in these restricted zones. And now those locals are the main providers of the help. So as you can see, houses of regular people who are working during the day, and then during the night they're putting the backpacks and going into the forest to bring soup, water, or medical help to migrants. Their houses become storages. As you can see on this photo, there are like things written what you have to take if you're going to the intervention. And also all around Poland, there's many supporting actions. So there's some groups that cook the soup, or people who protest, or people who, for instance, they're psychologists who provide help to activists, because some of activists are traumatized, and also to the locals, totally free. And there is many people involved all around Poland into this non-formal humanitarian aid. And now I will just show you what Grupa Granica is doing, because this is the biggest group who works in the area really actively. So we provide direct assistance. So people are going into the forest. We're monitoring situation. We're also making attempts to local people to help them in this situation, because in this restricted zone, there are like soldiers with guns, military trucks, military facilities start to appear, police, a lot of border guards. So we're also working with local people. We're raising awareness. We're cooperating with media, and also with translators to provide the help. I was working with Grupa Granica as an educator, and now I'm doing my activist part as a researcher. So I'm collecting testimonies. Also, we're monitoring the violence against the activists, and also we did some small research about doctors and nurses who work with migrants. But to show you the numbers, so Grupa Granica in September provided direct help to more than 100 people, but then we couldn't provide help to more than 400 who communicated with Grupa Granica, but they were on the Belarusian side. In October, as you can see, there was like big increase of people. So 3,600 people asked for assistance. And only in 1 week, this is the week with the highest number, there was almost 1,000 people who request help, and we managed to help only 413 of them. So there was 68 intervention. In November, the number decreased, but people still asking for assistance. And in November, it was interesting that the huge group of migrants start to appear. So, for instance, one group of 100 people contacted us asking for assistance. The other one was 50 people. And in November, there was at least 100 children among those people who contacted Grupa Granica. So this is non-formal aid sponsored by people who are just paying money to these NGOs. And there's a lot of people who are doing this because they feel they have to. And just to describe you how it is, here is a story of a girl who is an activist, but it's extremely important that she just get involved into migration things in August this year. And then just in end of September, she was walking with that heavy backpack. So she said, I was running with this heavy backpack. I was falling. I didn't know how to do it. And then when I started to taking the things from the backpack, there was 8 bottles of water, 4 jars with soup, 5 big thermos with tea, and also thermos with water for the baby to, make the milk, and also power banks and some clothes. And the girl thought, oh my gosh, how I was running with this. And then she said, when she was asked about her experience, the first experience with the intervention, she described it like they stop next to the field because there was no safe place to stop next to the forest, and they were running through this field. And she remembered the moment when she were running. She said, we were running and we cannot see anything. The only thing is a little bit the only thing is that some part is a little bit lighter, and the other one, there is a huge dark spot in front of us, and this is a forest. And she said, I don't like forest. For me, it's a place where you can just get lost. But then she decided to work in the forest. And then she say, on the map, it indicates that it's only 3 kilometers. So you think, oh, it will be fast. And then you are walking for 3 hours because there is a rough ground. She constantly fall, or her legs got stuck somewhere. She's saying it is crazy. And then also she said, when they reach to these people, the boars, the wild pigs appear with the small babies of them. And those activists had to contact the base, the center, what they should do in the situation when there are wild animals around them. And then she said something which struck me the most. So she say, we are young people who are doing these things, and the things we shouldn't have to do. At war or military conflict, there are people who are trained to do it, who has education in this field, and it should be like this. But because Polish authorities are not letting humanitarian workers there, young people who shouldn't be doing this are doing this. And then I want to show you one more thing. So this is a quotation from a local woman, a doctor, and she said, and she telling the story about hiding someone in their home. So she said that there was a old Yazidi woman, and she was working with the group, and the group just simply left her because she didn't have strength to go with them. Somebody pulled her from the swamp, somewhere from the forest. Then someone transported her to the road. Someone put her overnight. Someone somewhere along the way, the doctor examined her, and then the Yazidi woman was moved to another place. And then in the meantime, they tried to contact Grupa Granica. It took a long time, and then we had to hide this woman in our homes for a good 10 days. It was extremely stressful. And then only she was revealed thanks to help of Ombudsman, because some people from Ombudsman Bureau came, and then they transported this woman to the bushes, and then they revealed her to the border guards. So those descriptions, those stories are stories like from the Second World War, and people who give their testimonies often compare the situation to the situation that we had in Poland during the war. So what is the current situation? So we have illegal state of emergency. Of course, there is no official state of emergency, but if media want to go to the zone, they have to contact the border guards, and they have guided trips to the zone. We know about 10 deaths now on Polish side, but we know about many people who got missed, and their families contact, for instance, Grupa Granica, and ask for help to look for those people. We have reports from migrants that they saw the bodies in the forest, and also now wild animals are dragging human parts all around the forest. So people who live in the area, some of them especially moved from the big cities to be closer to the nature, are extremely afraid to enter the forest, not to find the dead body. And thanks to some diplomatic discussions, some migrants and asylum seekers were able to turn back. So it is more or less now around 4,000 people. But of course, if you are asylum seeker and you run away from your country, when you're turning back there, something bad can happen to you. So still, there are many people who didn't decide to turn back, and they're still in this dead zone. They're still used by Lukashenko's regime. On the other hand, we know that at least 10,000 asylum seekers crossed the border in Poland, and now they're in Germany and they're claim for asylum there. And also we know about some other people who reach other Western countries in Europe. So still people think that the path through this Polish border is the easiest way to get to EU. So now we estimate that still there is around 15,000 migrants who are in Belarus, thanks to some diplomatic actions. Some countries like Turkey and I think Iraq now are not letting people to fly to Belarus, so the flow is a little bit lower. But winter is coming, and in general it's already here, so we will be dealing with more hypothermia, more deaths. And to sum up, why this crisis? I really don't like the word crisis, because somehow it has this negative connotation, and but okay, let's leave it. So why it's different? Because it's politically coordinated, not only motivated, but also coordinated. People are just trafficked on mass scale by Belarusian authorities. People who are dying on the sea, who are drowning, it's terrible death. But comparing to starvation and dying from hypothermia, this death on Mediterranean Sea is faster. And also in this zone, there is no access to medical aid, nor to medical help, nor to humanitarian aid. So when people, for instance, were reaching Greece, they were getting some humanitarian aid, some medical help. Here, they're not getting. And the last thing, the local communities are extremely traumatized because of the situation. And the last thing about the photos. So I'm really against, showing this kind of photo with babies, which should, do something with your emotion. But mother of these two babies asked the reporter to show this photo on purpose. She told him that you have to show it to EU citizens, to Western people. Let them know how EU treats non-EU citizens, how they treat children. And this photo now is used in the social campaign. So on the photo, it's written they're light, they're helpless, and they're they're same people as we are, and we can save them. So just to acknowledge the photos on the presentation were from Testigo Documentary and also from Grupa Granica, Okopres, and Antek Mantorski. Now I will send you in the link some links to in the chat, some links to the report and to the in English, and to the sites of of some organization that work in this area. So from my side, it's all. If you have any question, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Marta. Yeah, this was really, well, it's hard to describe, you know, difficult to listen in some places, but I'm aware that this is good to disseminate even this very upsetting and distressing information. Yeah, so we have about half an hour for questions. I also see in the participants there are a few other people with Polish surnames, so I don't know if anyone rather would prefer not to ask a question but like comment, add a little bit more. Please also feel welcome to join us through a microphone or chat. So maybe just to, sometimes after a presentation everybody needs a little bit of time to digest all, you know, to think about the questions. I wanted to start, you mentioned that you've been doing some work walking in the neighborhoods of this border, in the villages or small towns. I think it's usually this sort of a locations, and talking to people. Could you say a little bit more what sort of conversations these were? What are, I'm sure the reactions are quite diverse. So what people were saying, talking to you?
So we were walking from village to village, from home to home, knocking the door. This is in Polish that I will show you, because this is the leaflet. It's written here, helping is legal, and there are information what you could do when you find the asylum seekers. Also here was the number to our to Grupa Granica base, where you could ask for translators and so on. So to give you the context, the villages in Podlasie, so in this area, are almost empty, because there is almost no work. So people migrate or abroad or to big cities, and in those villages mainly there are elderly people, mainly women. I was shocked because at least 40% of houses were empty. People were not living there, so the villages was empty. And in general, it was we were walking and talking just in the very beginning of the situation. So people, well, in general, they were saying, yes, if I will meet a migrant, I will give him water, I will give some food, and then I will call the board guards. And in those communities, border guards were highly respected. So they were some kind of, they were also serving kind of as a police. If something happened, you were calling them, they were your neighbors. So for people, it was obvious that if they will meet migrants, they will call the board guards. I didn't have experience that people were extremely against migrants or asylum seekers. I think I did around 45 talks, and there was only one man who were like really anti-migrants. He was saying, oh, is the best ways to shoot them. But in general, people were okay with the situation. They were saying, of course, the migrants are going through our villages. I think for me, most striking was that those people were not bothered by migrants. They were saying, yeah, they're just passing by. They're going to Germany. It's okay. But they were saying, why Polish authorities put so much money into protecting the border while we don't have access to the city because there is no bus or there is no road. We have no social care. So why they're giving money to this not important thing? Let them just cross and go to Germany and give us support. But then the situation changed, also because in the area appeared soldiers and also border guards from other areas of Poland. So they were strangers. So now many people, and now people know about the pushbacks. So there is a lot of people who just provide help. As I show you, they're hiding people in their houses. For me, it was shocking. It is like really stories from Second World War when Jews were kept in the storages, in the basements, and now we have same situation. Kamil Siller, which is a local inhabitant, but also he's a lawyer. He invented action green light. So he asked people that if you want to provide help to migrants, just put the green light on your home somehow, and then migrants will know that this is the safe house. But now, because there is right-wing activists who are in the area, people are afraid that something can happen to them by them. There was a situation when cars of doctors who provide help, private cars, were destroyed. I know about the situation when activists meet those masked guys with the sticks in the forest. They were looking for migrants and they were threatening those girls. They were saying, aren't you afraid to be alone in the forest? Something may happen to you. Someone can rape you. So now people, and also I think the most important thing about the shift that happened is that people, the refugees and migrants stopped being just something that appears in TV or media. They start to be a living creature that's standing in front of you in terrible state, and it's extremely hard to tell go away. So it's like this.
Yeah, thank you. It's important to sort of view it through the context of a bit longer perspective what's been happening in Poland, and also what you mentioned about some of this smaller town in eastern Poland being a little bit deprived and depopulated and with their own maybe issues and problems as well. So it's really complex on the ground and being used by different groups like right-wing vigilantes you mentioned. We have a couple of questions in the chat. So maybe let's start with the first one. The second one is a bit longer, so let's maybe focus on first from a question of Alice Griggs. I don't know whether Alice is still with us. Yes, Alice is here. I can read the question if you want, Alice, but if you want, you can also ask it. But right, I'll go.
No, I'm happy to. Hello, and thank you for
Hello.
your talk. It's been really, really informative and yeah, really, really difficult. But I appreciate your time. I don't know a huge amount about the topic, so I might be asking a really obvious question. But you haven't mentioned at any point the sort of the wider EU's response to what's happening in Eastern Poland, and my assumption from that is that there has been a lack of response, a lack of support, or a lack of reaction to the illegal state of emergency. But I wanted to ask that.
Yeah. So EU, to be honest, don't want to get involved, and they're, I think, they wanted to provide help with Frontex, but Polish authorities denied help from Frontex, and it was, I think, only a reaction. Then someone from EU Commission, human rights, the commissioner of human rights, she wanted to go to the state of emergency. She came to Poland, the EU commissioner, and she was denied access to the zone. But EU, for me, the want to stay back, but they're okay what's happening in Poland, because they don't want any migrants to come. So EU stay away on purpose from this situation, and also Poland deny any help from EU, because I think this is also important. Now Poland as Hungary are in kind of war or conflict with EU on many levels. So also they cannot ask for help, because if they're in this conflict, it would be somehow, you know, degrading to ask for help.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense and was kind of what I assumed would be the case. The other part of my question was anything we can do in the UK, any groups we can be, you know, raising money for, or any other kind of actions, or
I send you on the chat. I send you link to some groups, and I really recommend to go through this report of Grupa Granica. There is also information how you can help. There are you can raise money and send to Grupa Granica, but the most important thing you can do is to inform other people and tell them what's going on. I think this is the most important thing, because now we kind of get used to situation, but people are still dying and the situation is ongoing. So please just inform as many people as possible about the situation.
Yes, so thank you, Alice and Marta. There is one more question in the chat and then one more hand. I don't know whether Martina, would you like to to summarize the question? It's a little bit longer on the chat, or would you prefer me? I can try to read it. I think maybe Martina doesn't have a microphone. So the question is about whether, Martina, thanks you for presenting this complex situation of this humanitarian disaster. But academia is often criticized for its ability of clearly pointing out problems, a lack of ability of providing, realistic solutions. So based on your frontline experience, what solutions could you propose? Or maybe, there are already some recommendations coming from Grupa Granica work.
Yeah.
And it is also related to some other crises potentially happening, Belarus, Russia, etc.
To also put it in the context, there is also similar situation, ongoing situation on Lithuanian border. Also, there are many migrants try to cross their border, but somehow on their border no one died. And Grupa Granica in their report have pointed out what should be done. So first of all, there should be immediate humanitarian aid in the area provided by Red Cross or some humanitarian aid workers or institutions. Media should be allowed there to control what's going on. Also, there is some kind of remark about humanitarian bridges. So there were some cities, for instance, in Germany, who wants to accept some asylum seekers. So Grupa Granica proposed to make this humanitarian bridge. But also in Poland, we have ongoing discussion now, if accepting migrants is against protecting the borders, what we should do. So Grupa Granica also said, yes, we should protect the borders, but I really like the this quote from one of the activists: the protected border is the border on which no one dies. So this is another thing. And of course, there should be kind of Grupa Granica just offers that there should be, you know, Frontex involved. There should be some camps next to the border where we can fast identify people. If they don't want to claim for asylum, straight away we can send them back. And if they want to claim for asylum, then we can put them in some facilities. And of course, again, what is extremely important, we should change the narratives and what appears in media. And now I will tell you something shocking. The last survey that was done about Polish authorities and what they're doing on the border, people were asked if they agree with the policies and actions of Polish border guards, and 56% of people were in favor of their actions. So we should do a lot to change the narrative. And of course, things like this, we should have access to data, because now we don't know how many people exactly cross the border, because we have now those failed attempts to cross the border. But as I said, people sometimes cross the border for 30, 20 times. So those are same people. So we don't have access to the data. And last thing, which is extremely important, and also we emphasize it, Grupa Granica emphasize it, that local authorities should be supported, because people there are traumatized. Children who see the military, like soldiers with the guns, the military trucks, people are stopped there on the road by often those members of uniformed service. If they're asked to tell their name, they're not doing this, so you don't know if it's really the policeman or not. So communities are traumatized, and there is a big psychological help needed and support there. Yeah.
Yes, so not an easy answer, I guess, and not one solution could be made. Could we move on now to a question? I think Polly, you raised your hand. Polly Bentley, hello. Would you like to ask a question using microphone?
Hi, I am totally lost on the tech. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but we lost your video, but it doesn't matter. We can hear you well.
Obviously not. Well, I can't control the video. I can't find the chat, and it's taken me all this time to work out how to actually speak on it as well. The little icons are so tiny and they don't seem to do anything. Basically, I wanted to know, if I can't get to the chat, so I can't see the links,
Okay.
Can you email me? How can we help?
Yeah, so I think we'll share the links also on our website, and if you wanted, you can email us about them, because I think you're connected through the phone. I could see your video, so it looks like you're on a phone, so probably it's difficult to use all the functions of this Blackboard.
Well, I wasn't aware that I was only on the phone. I'm on an iPad. How can that be?
Okay, maybe it's anyway. iPad. Yeah. I could see you just changing.
So as I said, the most important,
how to help, basically.
Yeah, the most important thing is to educate people about this and talk about this. So we have to change the narratives. We have to push EU to act there and do something with this situation. Education and informing people about the situation and making them to push the politicians to do something. I think is the most important. And of course, you can raise money and give it to one of those NGOs, because now they like, because Polish authorities, of course, won't give them money to work in this area, so they're just working based on the money they collected from people. Fortunately, a lot of people are paying money to help them. They raise, I think, 1 million zloty, so it's quite huge number. But of course, we're spending it working in the zone and in the area.
Yes, thank you. There are a couple more questions. I think one comment from Dominika. So I don't know whether Majela, would you like to ask your question in a microphone, just to maybe contextualize it a little bit better.
Thanks, Annetta, and thank you, Marta, for bringing us these stories. Really important that we hear them. I was really struck by the data you presented and the sense that there was a change in help seeking between October and November. So October was individuals, in November there was kind of communal help seeking, large groups. And of course you told the story of the grandma, as she had been called, being left behind. But you know, do you have any information about the caring that migrants are doing for each other in the forests? Because I imagine that there's so much kind of solidarity between people within those communities living in the forests. And of course there will be constraints, but I just thought, you know, I'd like to hear if you have any information.
So it really depends. We know about people who are, for instance, how to say, putting the baby, the child between them and covering them with their bodies. So when we found, when one family was found, the girl was in extremely good state, but the man and her grandmother was almost dying. So there's a situation like this. But also we know about the situation when group dynamics is getting kind of tense. So people are left in the forest alone if they cannot walk as group is walking. Again, maybe it will be distressing, but I was this is also I was providing some humanitarian aid. I don't want to go into details how it was done, but the ombudsman took some things, because she the vice ombudsman, she has access to restricted zone, and she was telling me that when she came to one of the centers of board guards, and she brought the things for the people, like, you know, jackets, shoes, tampons, soap, water, chocolate, and so on. She said the people just, you know, like animals, jump on it, tried, like they were taking it from each other, almost fighting for it. And she said that she have never seen such thing in her life, and she's experienced older lady that works in the human rights area for many years. So there is solidarity, but also when people are fighting for their lives, sometimes they're not caring for each other. It really depends.
Yeah, I mean the process has completely dehumanized them.
Yeah. We have, I think, for activists who works in the forest, the hardest situations are when migrants kissing their hands, you know, grabbing their legs and thanking them. So people who are working in the forest saying that those people have like, they're so frightened, they are so afraid of other person, that their eyes are like, you know, frightened animal eyes. And this is so hard for activists seeing people in such state, where that another person is afraid of anybody. Yeah. And we have also reports about Polish board guards who are violent. There is of course, also we have in this structure, there are people who are helping, and you can, you know, follow the orders and be human, or follow the orders and not be human. We have a report about a woman who was pregnant, and they just throw her like a bag through the fence, and she miscarried, for instance. So there's situation also like this.
Yeah, so I guess also people who are helping need psychological support to cope with this. So it's really difficult for everybody. And also you mentioned for the communities that to maybe some of the people would like to help, but also afraid because of a narrative in the mainstream national media about, you know, what could happen to them if they're helping. There's one more question from Martina. I think I will read it because she had some connections problem before. In relation to Frontex, I think you mentioned that Polish authorities didn't want Frontex to be involved. Common activists criticizing Polish government for refusing to use Frontex, while Frontex is using pushbacks as well, and effectively causing death of migrants in the south of Europe. I don't know whether there are anything more we can say about the, you know, these different perspectives.
I think the difference here is that now we have law that legalize pushbacks. So we have the law that says that the chief of the local board guards can decide if a person is sent back to the Belarusian side, and this person doesn't have right to complain. So before, in Poland, board guards were not deciding whether to accept the asylum claim or not. They were obliged to do it. And then other agencies, so Department of Migrants was taking care of this process, and people there were deciding if to give the asylum or not. And now it's like this, that the chief of the local unit of board guards just decide if person crossed illegally, so not on the board crossroad, then the chief can do anything with this person, and the person cannot do anything with this.
Can I
Yes,
quickly ask a question? Sorry, the Blackboard is temperamental. Now it works. Can I ask, is that thank you for answering all the questions in your presentation. Can I quickly ask, is this legislation Polish only, or is it EU legislation?
It's Polish.
Polish
It's
only.
Polish, yeah, and it's against, as I said, Geneva Convention, Polish Constitution, any human rights convention, and so on and so on. But they just did it because the Law and Order Party has the majority in the parliament. So
yeah, I think even Polish ombudsman mentioned that you know, it's against the Geneva Convention, as you mentioned, Article 31. If I remember that, even a person, if they illegally cross the border, they should have a right for to claim asylum, and they couldn't be. So it's just, I don't know, hard to see how is it possible to make it allow against.
The situation also, I think it's important. The situation in this region now, it's like people are not following the law at all. So the police can stop you and search your car. Just today, we have the information that one of the center where activists sleep and from where they like going into the intervention was searched. 12 police car came, policemen with the guns came into the center in the night. They interrogated activists. They took their phones, they took their computers, but they didn't have, this court order to search the place, but they did it. So, and also the thing that I think it's extremely hard for people who work in the zone is that it's not only the law that doesn't exist, but even the logic doesn't exist. What I mean, people are saying, I was taking care of a migrant. I don't know, like cover his or her wound. I give this person a soup. I hugged this person. And then the board guards took this person. I'm asking where he is or she is, and they're saying there was no such person. This person doesn't exist. So they're undermining even your logic, your way of thinking. They're saying there was not such person. Activists saying, but I hugged this person. I touch it. I feel it by my body. No, there was not such person. This person doesn't exist. We didn't have this person.
Yeah, these are all very horrible stories. Probably we also have to remember about the context of what other changes in the recent changes in Poland and the politics in relation to Jewish, women's rights, and then what happens to media, judiciary, and so on. So I think it's been a longer process of changing the law and crossing different sort of boundaries. We have to finish now. Our time is 15 minutes for the seminar, but if someone wanted to, I think, follow up the conversation today, there is an event organized by a Center of Migration Research. If you go, I don't have a link now, but if you go to our Twitter account, I think we retweeted the invitation. There is a more conversation with people, I think, who work with you, Marta, on the Grupa Granica at the CMR event, which is today and tomorrow, like couple of hours in the afternoon. So I'm sure there's plenty of more questions everybody would have, so please join the other events.
And on the other events, we will be also comparing this crisis to one in Balkans and in Greece. So
you mentioned there are some differences, but potentially maybe we should think about the whole events from maybe something actually changing in the EU approach if they are not.
I can just send you the link to.
I think Dominika just copied them here.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Dominika. Yes, thank you everybody for attending this session today, and there will be more seminars from us in Sheffield in the second semester, and we'll be informing you about them. And thank you again, Marta. I could see that it's not an easy topic for you to talk, but I can't see any other way of finding out than to sharing these difficult stories. So thanks for taking time and doing this also emotional labor as a researcher to talk about this.
Thank you for finding space to talk about this, and because it's not easy and it's not nice topic to talk. Thank you, and please share it with others. This is, I think, our mission as researchers, as academics, to share the knowledge and information with others. So please do it and find a peace during this Christmas time.
Yeah, there's always one space left at the Polish Christmas table, so I'm sure people would maybe wait in the small towns at the border to welcome refugees. Okay, thanks everybody. I think we'll stop the recording now.